I want to start on these tariffs. The market is on track right now for its worst weekly performance since March of 2020. How do you continue to be an advocate for these tariffs, given the sell-off we're seeing, given that I have had every source on our show this morning say that these tariffs will be causing a recession in the United States?
What if I told you Donald Trump is dead serious about eliminating income tax in the United States? That's right. No more deductions from your paycheck, no more IRS breathing down your neck every April, no more funding bloated bureaucracies with your hard-earned dollars. This isn't some fringe fantasy or online conspiracy theory. This is real, and it might just be the most radical shift in modern U.S. economic policy we've ever seen. What we're seeing right now with Trump's bold tariff rollout is not the end game. It's phase one. The chaos you're seeing on cable news, that's the prelude to something much bigger. Phase two, if Trump gets his way, is a complete elimination of federal income tax for individuals. Think about that for a second. Imagine the United States operating without taxing your income directly. It's wild, but maybe it's exactly what the country needs. Let's break this down. For years, Trump has claimed that income tax is unconstitutional. He's spoken out against it on the campaign trail, in interviews, and through social media. He's argued that the government doesn't need to tax workers to fund itself, and that there are better, more efficient, and frankly, fairer ways to generate revenue. And now, with his new wave of tariffs targeting foreign imports, he's quietly laying the foundation to make that happen.
There is a laundry list of grievances with China that have been around since they joined the WTO, and none of the administrations previously have ever dealt with China.
So why are tariffs the right way?
Dealt with for the first time. So this has nothing to do with just tariffs. I mean, right now I can't litigate.
That's the tool that the administration is using. Why are tariffs the correct tool if, to your point, these have nothing to do with tariffs?
Phase one was about trade, tariffs, making foreign companies pay up to sell in America. The media lost its collective mind. Every major outlet from CNN to Bloomberg started shrieking that this would tank the stock market, cause inflation, and bring on a recession. But that's the distraction. Behind the curtain, Trump is lining up the dominoes for phase two, replacing income tax with tariff revenue and other alternative funding mechanisms. Here's how it works. When a Chinese company sells a product in the U.S., it might undercut American manufacturers on price. But only because China doesn't play fair, they exploit labor, ignore environmental rules, and manipulate currency. Trump's tariffs flip that script. Suddenly, Chinese goods are more expensive. American-made goods are competitive again. And here's the kicker. The U.S. government collects money every time one of those foreign products enters the country. That revenue doesn't come from you, it comes from the companies selling to you. And that's the key difference. This revenue model isn't new. In fact, the U.S. government funded itself primarily through tariffs before the federal income tax was established in 1913. Trump wants to go back to that system, one where trade pays for government, not workers. It's a return to an America-first financial strategy. And yes, it's aggressive. But it also just might work. The mainstream media hates it. Wall Street hates it. Globalist elites hate it. Why? Because it shifts power away from multinational corporations and back to American workers. It's not about being anti-business. It's about being pro-American business. And the results are already starting to show. Inflation has dropped to pre-pandemic levels. Gas prices are falling, grocery prices are stabilizing, and over 50 countries have already reached out to negotiate better trade deals. That's not failure, that's leverage. Let's talk about phase two directly. The elimination of the income tax would be a tectonic shift in how the U.S. government functions. Trump's vision is simple. If tariffs and increased domestic productivity can generate enough revenue, then the IRS becomes obsolete. That's not just political theater. That's a fundamental restructuring of how we interact with the government. Now, let's be honest. This is going to piss off a lot of people, especially those who've been profiting off the old system. Financial institutions, stock market investors, and big corporations that offshore jobs, they're all terrified because a self-sustaining America doesn't need them the same way. That's why the media is pushing panic. That's why every talking head on TV is screaming, recession. But ask yourself, why do they care so much? Because they're losing control. The truth is, most Americans don't care about the daily ups and downs of the stock market. The top 10% of Americans hold the vast majority of stock market wealth. The rest of the country, they care about their jobs, their paychecks, and whether they can afford groceries this week. So when media outlets cry about Wall Street panic, regular folks shrug. One small business owner, not even a Trump supporter, recently explained it perfectly. He showed how buying American means every dollar stays in America. When you buy a Chinese product, most of your money leaves the country. But when you buy American, that money recirculates in your local economy. Tariffs push people toward buying local. That means more demand for American businesses, more jobs, and yes, more competition, which leads to innovation and growth. Now, of course, there are trade-offs. In the short term, prices might rise. Some goods will cost more. But here's the thing. Most people are willing to pay a bit more if it means a stable job, a thriving economy, and real national independence. We've been in a fantasy land for too long, addicted to cheap foreign goods and ignoring the long-term damage. Trump is ripping off that Band-Aid. There's another angle here that can't be ignored. The generational divide. Many young Americans feel betrayed by the system. Trump's plan to eliminate income tax and bring economic control back to the people is resonating, especially with younger voters who want out of the Wall Street hamster wheel. The critics will argue, of course. They'll say tariffs are a blunt tool. They'll say this will hurt consumers. They'll say it's reckless. But let's flip the script. What's more reckless? Continuing to run up a $36 trillion national debt while outsourcing our entire manufacturing base to foreign adversaries, or taking bold action to bring that wealth and power home? We've never had a proper recovery from 2008 because the system was rigged to begin with. We were kept afloat by cheap goods and endless debt. Now we have a chance to correct that. Tariffs force accountability. They force companies to reinvest in America. They encourage innovation and demand loyalty to the country that made these companies possible in the first place. And while we're at it, let's talk about the Fed. The Fed has been propping up this fantasy with artificial interest rates and quantitative easing for years. But now, with inflation under control, they're backed into a corner. Trump's plan might actually stabilize the economy the old-fashioned way, through hard work, fair trade, and keeping the money here. If that happens, the Fed's role as a market manipulator shrinks. And guess what? That's a good thing. This isn't about Trump worship, it's about ideas. And love him or hate him, Trump is putting forward a vision that challenges decades of failed policy. He's saying, enough with the outsourcing, enough with the dependence on China, enough with income taxes funding corrupt bureaucracies. Let the people keep their money, let businesses thrive, and let the government earn its revenue through fair trade. Will it be easy? Will there be pushback? Absolutely. But it's a bold, unapologetic move toward national strength, financial freedom, and genuine economic independence. And if Phase 2 really does bring an end to the income tax system as we know it, we may just be looking at a new American revolution, one built not on war, but on economic sovereignty. So buckle up, watch the media meltdown, watch the politicians squirm, but more importantly, watch the data. Track the job numbers, the trade balances, the real wages. Because if Trump pulls this off, if he really does eliminate income tax, then history won't just remember this as bold, it'll remember it as the turning point that brought America back to life.